Alexander Ovechkin is playing what I think to be what Alexander Ovechkin plays at. Yet a lot of people are talking about him shedding the label. Was the label deserved? Before we get into is he shedding the label?
I think the whole debate's absurd. Yeah. I think you're dealing with some media people. I've never heard anyone in hockey talk about this debate. Look at his stats in the playoffs. This guy's a warrior. He's got world championships, Olympic gold. This guy's a winner. He just hasn't been able to get out of that second round of the playoffs. Now, whose fault is that? If I'm the GM, I think, well, it's my fault. So Brian McLeod put in a team this year. They've advanced. I give him the credit for it. I think Ovi's been a competitor all along. But you've got to – I remember talking to Harry Sinden, and when Ray Burke never won, he said, well, whose fault is that? He's doing his part of it. He said, we have to do more. So I think it's an absurd debate, and I'm starting to get annoyed. I hope you can tell, not with you guys, but
I thought you were normally annoyed with me anyway.
Yes, but I've been asked this question so much, and this guy gets it done all the time. And when a team doesn't advance, I put that on my shoulders more than on any one player.
Is there something about wingers being able, like, because a lot of people just compare him to Sidney Crosby, and Crosby's been able to get there. Now they forget the Malkin part of the equation, they forget the Kessel part of they forget the Letang part of the equation, and the goaltender part of the equation. But is it easier for a center to affect a series and maybe put a team on his back as opposed to a winger?
I think so, but I think, to me, the difference has been Sid's had a better supporting cast, but Sid's a big moment player. This is a guy who, if you're comparing the two players, that's not fair either, because I don't know if there's been a player in the history of the league that shone better in the spotlight than Sidney Crosby. Right. Internationally, NHL, everything. This guy loves the big stage, so maybe Ovi comes in second on that one, and maybe it's because he's a winger, but he's not far behind him.
Right.
He's been a marvelous player in our league.
You mentioned internationally, and motivation's always an interesting word to me in terms of a guy like Ovechkin right now. And I'll bring it to soccer just for a second. In TFC, you had two players in Bradley and Altidore. They didn't qualify for the World Cup. Right. And MLS Cup became everything. Right. And you saw it in the way they played and how they led that team and carried themselves. I'm thinking of Ovechkin and him watching Russia win that gold medal overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that part of what we're seeing now as well? Because, I mean, everyone's been all over him, and I think in hockey it's a ridiculous argument because you play like 20 minutes a night, and it's crazy that one player can control the action that way. But how much is that playing in this, do you think, for Ovechkin?
I think some, but I think he gets tired of this, I'm sure, hearing this ridiculous debate that he hasn't done enough. You look at his stats. He has scored consistently in the playoffs. And yet, because he's Russian and because Sydney's Canadian, it's easy to say, oh, he can't get it done. Right. I'll tell you an Ovechkin story. So the World Championships in Cologne, the year after the 2010 Olympics, I'm in, my son's accident was about 3 weeks before the Olympics. Right. I'm at the World Championships in Cologne. I walk by the Russian dressing room. Alexander Ovechkin's in the room. Sees me go by. He hasn't seen me. I didn't see him in the village in Vancouver. Yells, Burke, Burke. And I stop. I come back. He comes over. Sit down. He puts his arm around me. He said, I'm so sorry about your son. This is a guy that never played for me. He didn't know me that. I expect players who played for me to act like that. This guy never played for me at all. Right. He's a wonderful person. Yeah. And he brings an exuberance to the game that's magical to watch. Like his goal celebrations and how excited he gets and the big hits he throws. No one gives him credit for that.
Because a lot of people, there's an old school hockey culture that was like, get hot stick this and getting
I didn't like that one.
Okay. But you like the energy that he brings to the arena every day. Because for me, that's hard to do 82 games into the postseason.
Not just that. He gets excited when teammates score. He jumps in the pile when teammates score. Like, he's just excited about scoring a goal and getting ahead in the game. So I think this guy's been a marvelous player in our league, and I'm glad he's having some success.